Did you like what you saw from the Ravens?
What does it look like? Of course I did, because I love it. When my boys go into somebody's home,
I forgot it was on the road.
especially a mansion, a luxurious mansion like SoFi Stadium, and take over. All right? They make themselves at home. They kick up their feet on the coffee table and start ordering people around. Khalil, turn on the television. And since we from Baltimore, put on the wire. Jim, go get me your favorite robe. I want to make myself comfortable. Justin, I'm hungry. So get me a sandwich, some chips, and yes, a soda pop to quench my thirst. That's what the Ravens did. That's what I've been telling them to do all season long, and they did it. Nick, they bullied some bullies. Because Jim Harbaugh came into L.A. and changed everything around.
Yeah.
Right? Who needs the forward pass? We tough.
Forward.
We gonna run up and down the football field and not let you score.
Yeah.
Until last night. They hadn't given up 30 points in a game. Until last night.
Yeah.
Oh, you run the football so well. They got 80 yards. And the Ravens rushed for 200 plus.
True.
Got down 10. And thankfully, I think John Harbaugh might be watching the buzz list. Got down 10 points and did not go away from the run.
That's right.
They kept giving it to Derrick Henry, and he did his thing. And most importantly, Nick, the defense. Now, I get it. The Chargers aren't, a light show offensively.
They've got Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. They don't have the best receivers, but hey, their receivers got very little separation. This was second week in a row the Ravens defensive backs look good. All right? Without Roquan Smith, they shut down the run.
True.
So the defense might be, the offense is good enough. The defense has to come along, and they did last night. So, yes, I'm happy.
Well, you deserve to be happy. That was a great win. Now, I think there is a misconception, about what I think of Lamar or think of the Ravens. Because people were surprised when I picked them to win yesterday on the show. Nobody that's won multiple MVPs and that wins, 76% of his career games, I don't think Lamar is Tua, where you play a good team, you get beat. I don't think Lamar is, early edition Kirk Cousins, where 1 o'clock on a Sunday, you're great. Sunday night or Monday night, you're bad. In fact, he's unbelievable on Monday Night Football. My Lamar criticism is very specific to the playoffs and what I perceive to be his two biggest challengers, be a divisional rival and obviously everyone's challenger, the Chiefs. I know you two think I'm cherry picking there. I don't feel that way, but regardless. But there is, my pushback in general has been a narrative one, which is, and Brew, to your credit, you didn't do it there at all because you gave credit where it was due, which was Lamar was very good yesterday. But to me, the story was they did stick with Derrick Henry. They did run the football. And because it feels very often like when they lose, it's why didn't they run the football? And when they win, it's a lot of this from our friends at CBS Sports, this type of thing. Lamar Jackson, first in everything, MV3.
Okay, let's look at this. Yeah. So, this is interesting. It's funny because a lot of people want to say that Lamar Jackson has a lot of haters in the media or whatnot, or that the media doesn't want him or in the Baltimore Ravens to be successful, which really doesn't make sense considering you do have things like NFL and CBS sending this out, and Brew doing his whole song and dance, and Colin and everyone else out there, as well as he's already won multiple MVPs, which is literally voted on by the media. So, but they obviously have their haters as well, like Nick Wright, kind of coming at this now saying, hey, let's knock it down a peg. That's the problem with theatrics. When you go so over the top in one way or the other, whether it be dropping banners, wearing big coats and sunglasses and put your feet up and eat making sandwiches, it kind of gets us away from having like the real discussion of this all. And things become so unnecessarily polarizing. Because then it feels like we can't talk about this game and talk about the Ravens and say, yeah, the run game was the big reason why they won. You know, Lamar Jackson made some beautiful throws and really did a great job in that game. But really, the reason why they were able to really take over was because of just, you know, being a bunch of bullies and run the ball. Obviously, you know, rushing for over 200 yards and really just exhausting. And then relying on Lamar Jackson to be surgical. Like, that was in no way an MVP performance by Lamar last night. I'm not saying he's not an MVP candidate this year, but I'm just saying last night, your takeaway from that game is not, oh my God, look how amazing Lamar is. Lamar is amazing. Absolutely. Undeniably. But that game, you don't watch and go, Lamar is just, oh my God. He made some beautiful throws. Again, he's a top quarterback in the NFL, so he's going to have those moments. But that was not like a next level, you know, that was not a Lamar game, so to speak. That was a Derrick Henry game. Derrick Henry could not be tackled. I mean, it was like a cartoon having all these people just climb on him, and he just would not go down. And so the problem is when you have all these theatrics, when you have people that are either really trying to rip Lamar down, like Nick Wright, you know, comparing him to James Harden and kept calling him Aaron Judge. And he's like, let's look at highlights of Lamar Jackson, and shows highlights of the New York Yankees and stuff like that. And then again, you have now Brew doing his whole thing. It's like, it feels like no matter what anyone says here is kind of, it creates that environment for everything to erupt. Because I already feel it. If I come out here and say, yeah, that was a really good game, Lamar played pretty good, I feel the energy. You're like, what do you mean? That was amazing. Lamar's a top quarterback in the NFL. And it's like, I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that this was not a Lamar game necessarily. Like, Lamar, you know, that's just not what it is right now. And on the other side, if you come out and say, that was great, that's amazing, look at Lamar, he's first in all these categories, you can then get the counter of it where you're now going to get Nick be like, can we stop with all of this? So again, we just keep pulling to such extremes, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's entertaining, oftentimes it's kind of like, okay, can we just talk about the reality of the situation? Because the game that the Ravens had, and I feel this way with Nick doing the banners and stuff with the Chiefs and stuff, it's just kind of like, this is not a game to be like, yeah, the Ravens, that's what they did. They went in and ate a sandwich and you know, got some soda pop and all that type of stuff. That's not what that game was. I expect the Ravens to be able to do this. I said going into this game, I said that the Chargers were either going to win a close game or the Chiefs were going, or the Chargers were either going to win a close game or the Ravens were going to win convincingly. That they would roll the Chargers. And now they didn't necessarily roll the Chargers score-wise, but they were. I mean, that score was not even really representative. I mean, like, that was pretty much a two-score game. The Ravens were clearly in control of that game. The Chargers could not stop them offensively, and it was a very straightforward game. And some just beautiful throws by Lamar, some beautiful scrambles by Lamar. Just again, really in his bag, and just a great game. Again, Henry had 24 carries for 140 yards. But again, like, let's have a real conversation. They also had 9 penalties for over 100 yards, which is insane. That continues to be insane. They were leading the league with penalties before they even played this game. And everyone already played on Sunday and Thursday. That's awful. I understand there's a few buys scattered in there for some of these other teams, but at this point, this deep in the season, you know, that's kind of balancing itself out. So it's just kind of insane at this point to have these penalties. That's why it's like what I saw the Ravens do, I know they can do. And if anything, these games make me angrier, because then it's like there's no excuse for you not to be able to do this week to week to week. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for you to not beat the Browns, to not beat the Steelers, to not beat the Raiders. Why didn't you have this game plan against the Chiefs? Again, I get it, week 1, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But that's kind of the whole thing. That's kind of where my mind goes more than anything. And again, that's not to pull down the Ravens, because I don't think we have to talk about the things that I just brought up every single week, which I don't. And that's why, I defend the Ravens and Lamar for that matter. But it's just when we constantly go through these extremes, the actual reality of the situation, it gets lost in the details. It does. And so a game like this, I would expect the Ravens to be able to win if they're going to actually be a top contender team, which they obviously are. So they win this game. And if they win this game, it's like, okay, why did this game look easier? But also, why was this game harder at times as well? And that's what even Lamar's talking about. Lamar's like, we got to be able to play a more complete game start to finish. And again, these penalties. If you think you can get 100 yards penalties in an AFC Championship game against the Bills, against the Chiefs, and you're going to still try to come away with the win, I mean, it's just you're hurting yourself. You're putting yourself at such a massive deficit. And that conversation is different than some of the other previous conversations when the Ravens win, is saying, yeah, but can they do this in the playoffs? Because that's dumb. That's like absurd. But trying to figure out, hey, this is a good team. How can this be more refined? And also, again, did they even watch the game last night? The starting running back for the Chargers went down. They were running the ball really well up until that point. So again, those are things that if you're going to evaluate the Chiefs, I am messing up the names today, man. The Ravens, if you're going to honestly evaluate them, we have to be honest with what we're seeing. What still needs to be corrected? I think the course correction of actually running the ball and not abandoning it, and also being aggressive on 3rd and 4th downs, I love to see. That is a great course correction. That is a great course correction. You still do need to see that defense continue to evolve and improve. You do need to see the penalties, because again, at this point, it's indefensible. It's indefensible to have seasoned veteran coaching and have continued to just be reckless with the penalties. So when the expectations are elevated, the scrutiny gets elevated as well. So it's funny to kind of be on both sides of this kind of a thing, because even the question doesn't make sense to me. Impressed by Ravens last night. To be impressed by the Ravens last night, you would have to be down on the Ravens and think that they're not a top team. That's why I kind of like scoff at the idea of like, you know, Brew wearing that whole outfit and get up, because I'm kind of like, well, the Ravens did what they are supposed to do. If they're a top team, if Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and company are there, like, this is what they're supposed to do. I expect this from them. Just like I expect the Chiefs to beat the Raiders and the Panthers. And that's why I'm not like, don't drop banners for that. Like, you don't drop a banner for doing what you're supposed to do. I met Terry Francona years ago, head coach for various teams, you know, won World Series and whatnot. And he talked about, you know, hitting home runs, and how you have some players who hit a home run and they really marinate in it and they celebrate and they go crazy, or they put their head down, they just run around the bases and go back into the dugout. And he says, like, you know, act like you've done it before. Act like you've done it before. And I had always, and I met him when I was really young, but I've always taken that advice to heart. In any sport I've ever done, any accomplishment, to almost kind of a fault to a degree, because then you don't really celebrate your own victories. But it's also like, I expect this from myself. If I accomplish something, if I have a big moment, I expect I get back on D or whatever I need to do. Whatever sport we're talking about in this example. It's just like, no, I expect it. And so that is, with the Ravens, I expect it. So are you impressed? No, because I expect them to do this. And I want to see them continue to get better. I would be impressed if their penalties were cut in half. Then I would say, okay, here we go. This is great. I would be impressed by that more than anything. The penalties, I need to see get taken care of more than anything else. Way more than anything else. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? The constant extreme conversation surrounding them. Lamar is either trash and not good enough, or he's either the greatest player in the history of the world. The Ravens are either going to win the Super Bowl, or they are not even going to make the playoffs or win the division. Let me know in the comments below. You gotta love these extremes. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.